What's up, everybody? This is comments from the Peanut Gallery coming live from Factory X Muay Thai down in Englewood, Colorado. This is your host, Jordan Kurtz, alongside Austin Osmosis Jones. How you doing today, man?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing very well. If you guys hear a little bit of background noise going on, it's actually a real special night right here in Factory X Pro Gym. Matt Brown is doing UFC promo work in the background behind us, so a very special night. We do apologize, though, if it's a little bit loud in the background.
Yep, do not disturb. He's not a fun guy to spar with, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're talking the literal undead coming back after you on that one. So, Austin, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, man. Where can people follow you?
Yep, so you can follow me on Instagram, Osmosis Jones 28. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, so you can always stop by the gym and come say what's up to me. Pretty much I'm mostly on Instagram, so I'm always posting stuff, some funny videos, some pictures of the fight team and stuff like that, so try to keep it interesting as possible.
That's awesome. Well, as far as your fight team handles, where can people find the fight team?
Yep, so you just go to Factory X Muay Thai on Instagram as well. And also you can take a look at our Facebook page, Factory X Muay Thai, and Twitter as well. So they're all the same, Factory X Muay Thai.
Okay, very awesome. Well, so as far as that goes, Austin, part of the big reason why we're gathered here today, you have a fight that's coming up on March 16th.
Yep, yeah, it's a rematch. So I fought him September, about a year and a half ago. And it was a really close fight, and I just think I want to really prove to myself and to everyone else that I want to be Colorado's champion, and this is a good step to get that redemption back. So I think I'm going to finish this fight for sure.
Very nice. With that being said, have you fought your entire career at the same weight class?
Yeah. So I've spent mostly my first debut fight was at 185, and that was just no weight cut, just to make sure you get to the fight and stuff. But yeah, I've spent most of my career at 170, just based on my frame and just kind of coming out of college, losing a lot of weight from there.
Okay. Well, so you mentioned you're a hometown kid from Denver, Colorado, played ball at Smoky Hill High School. You then actually, you're one of the elite percentage out there that was a D1 athlete and played with a pretty good ball club out there at the University of Nebraska with Coach Pelini. Talk a little bit about that experience.
So yeah, just getting there was quite a journey. I came from a high school team. We didn't win a lot of games, and I didn't have any college offers. But, I was still applying for school, had decent grades, and I really valued my education, so got accepted into Nebraska. And, I was like, I hear they have, some tryouts. So I gave it a shot. I was the only one picked out of 30, so I guess I was pretty fast and I can catch the ball. And, that was kind of a crazy journey just to get there. Then on top of that, being a tryout walk-on at that, it was really, tough just to get to team camp, because only we had about 150 guys on the team, and 105 would be the lineup for the fall camp. So it was a hard first year, redshirting and everything, but I got through it, and each year I made camp and finally got to the top three my senior year of the running back lineup.
That's pretty awesome. You saw that you had you got some playing time, had some touches, all of that. Even had your invite to a pro day. How did that experience from football kind of transition you to where you're at now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was kind of just one of those things. Football does take a lot of imagination and manifesting those moments. One thing that kind of kept me going was I actually got into one of the games. It was against Western Kentucky, and I scored a touchdown. And it's kind of unheard of for a tryout walk-on to even get in the game. And in my mind, I knew I was going to score. So I gave pro day a shot, and didn't get picked up by any teams. I just don't think I had enough film. So as an athlete, you want to keep going. You want to keep competing in something. So I started watching MMA in college, and one day I just bought a punching bag and started kicking it and hit the speed bag and stuff. And one fighter that kind of inspired me to start fighting was BJ Penn. That was probably my first MMA fight that I watched against Sean Shirk. So it was a phenomenal performance, and I was like, that's pretty cool. I could see myself doing that. So after pro day, moved back home, got into jiu-jitsu at American Top Team under Bobby Lashley. He's running a gym for a while, and then eventually started sparring with the MMA team, and my coach came up to me. He's like, "Yeah, we should start fighting right away." So I think it was just kind of came natural. And football is definitely one of those sports where you really find yourself as an athlete as far as your explosiveness and speed, because everyone on the field is lightning fast and super strong. So you kind of just adapt to that, and same thing in MMA. So
very nice. Well, just kind of as a big cap off to that portion of our story we're talking about here today, what was the biggest experience, or what was the most notable experience as a Cornhusker that you had?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot, man. Like, there's funny ones. There was some deep moments. I really appreciate the deep moments. I was really good at doing impersonations. So during fall camp, I would put together this video of all the players and coaches, and kind of make fun of them, and I had the whole team laughing, because fall camp's a time where there's a lot of stress. Everyone's trying to get on the field to get to the next level, so just made everyone laugh and stuff like that. So
okay, very nice. Now, you had mentioned getting starting into MMA once football kind of wrapped up for you. That was around 6 years ago, you said, correct? Mm-hmm. What's the journey been like for you, going from 6 years ago, going AMI, then turning pro? How has that process looked like for you personally? What's your story?
Yeah, so like just growing up, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. And, MMA was, my last thing to attempt at it. And starting out amateur, I trained for a full year, got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu before I actually fought, which I thought was a very good idea. And had a really good amateur career. I probably should have taken more amateur fights, but it's just, I think all fights you can gain experience, whether it's pro or amateur. And then as an amateur, I was 6-1, went pro, won my first 2 pro fights, and lost my second, and then went on this streak of losses. 3 fights in a row I didn't win. They're all close split decisions. But that's also a good thing, because they were a hell of a fight and could have went either way. And now, people look at my record and they kind of underestimate what I can really do in there. So that's kind of been a competitive edge to me. And kind of always been an underdog, even, when I was young. I had severe asthma when I was 9 years old. Couldn't keep up, running sprints on the field with all the other kids. And kind of just always had that pressure growing up. And finally finding a way to overcome that asthma. This whole fight camp, I haven't even used an inhaler, and I've just been crushing it. So I think it was all in my head, and now that I'm out of my head, I think I'm really going to do some damage. So
that's awesome. We had talked before we even got this rolling about mental manifestation being such a huge thing that you've seen through sports throughout your entire life. How has that been able to help you progress to this point in your career within MMA?
I think it was just like surrounding myself with positive people that have been there before. Guys like Matt Brown. Being there to push me. He can, if the training session was 5 hours and we were sparring for 5 hours, he would go for 5 hours nonstop. And if you can put yourself through that, there shouldn't be a fight that's difficult. And I'm also, when I'm driving and working and stuff. I'll listen to good podcasts. David Goggins is a really good person to listen to if you've never heard of him. Incredible guy to listen to. He believes that there's no such thing as 100%. If you hit 100%, you die. So it's kind of that thing. There's always more you can give. And when you think you're going hard, you can always go harder. And that's kind of the mindset. And that's how you really push through. Your body is just a tool. But your mind is, the captain. So
that's awesome. With that being said, and having a lot of different stuff coming into the mix during camp right now, one of your coaches for your fight team is a part of the Tough Cast right now. Mm-hmm. How is that impacting your your level of preparation and your strategy going into this March 16th fight with Coach Montoya not being here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like from a futuristic standpoint, it's awesome because our gym's getting on the map. When they think of Mark in the UFC, they're going to be giving us calls to line those fight cards up, because it's all about connections, and I think that's really beneficial. As far as like what's going on now in the fight camp, it's just a test of your discipline. You shouldn't be showing up just for coach anyways. You show up for yourself because you're the only one that's in there. And whether it's decision, you get knocked out, you submit, it's on you. So it's up to you to win that fight. There's no excuse for that.
That's a very good point to make. With that being said, with Coach Montoya being gone, you guys obviously have a plethora of other very highly qualified coaches that are here on the team and that you guys have working in and out. What has been the main focus for you coming into this fight? Is there a specific area of your game that you're looking to attack and to really kind of polish off and perfect, or is it just kind of bringing the complete broad stroke approach and being the best that you can bring?
So it's kind of a mixture. The communications being very good with Mark and the other coaches. So when we're doing our pad sessions, we're really working on our game plans and kind of just for this fight. It's not a huge game plan. It's more of just me just being myself, getting back to those fights where I was finishing and really just having fun in there. When you focus on your opponent too much, you're really just giving them the upper hand. You're one step shorter every time because you're trying to anticipate what they're doing, and they may not do that in the fight. They may be a totally different fighter, and the goal in each fight is for you to be a different fighter as well. So I think the main thing is just to focus on yourself, and that goes back to manifesting how you want the fight to be. So.
Okay. Well, great input all across the board there. I'm absorbing like a sponge over here hearing all this from you. Just to kind of take a quick little breather from the heavy dose of the content here, you said that you had a sponsor that you would like to give a plug out to. Who is it that you'd like to speak for?
Yep, Reception Naturals. It's a CBD oil company. They got great skincare products, great muscle recovery products, and the CBD oils are phenomenal. Helps with the recovery and dealing with the pain. We get kicked a lot, get punched a lot, and taken down a lot. So recovery is huge because you always want to be able to have a great output your entire camp. So I like to go hard and really stay in the moment and just keep going. And push my cardio. So that helps. Recovery is huge. So
awesome. And for those of you out there listening, Austin does a great little LL Cool J impression bit. He mentioned being good at impersonations earlier. There's an LL bit on there, so go ahead and check him out on Instagram and follow that out right there. Personally, I just want to plug a couple of people from comments from the Peanut Gallery on our behalf. If you're in the northern Colorado area and you're in need of quality home repair, restoration, or renovation services, check out Carlson Property Solutions by giving Brian and Becca a call at 970-775-4274 or visit their website online at www.carlsonpropertysolutions.com. Once again, that's 970-775-4274 or visit carlsonpropertysolutions.com. Also, a few days ago, I had a great opportunity to meet, network, and chat with some of the guys from FNG Precision Coatings. They're a great company based out of California. It's a veteran-owned and operated metal plating company. They do incredible work. You can follow them online, FNG Precision Coatings, on all major social media platforms. You can also check out their website, fngprecision.com. Once again, that's FNG Precision Coatings, and you can check them out online at fngprecision.com or on any major social media platform. Once again, we're Comments from the Peanut Gallery. You can listen to us on all major streaming platforms, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and you can also follow us online at galleriesofpeanuts.com, on Facebook at Peanut Sports, and on Twitter at Peanut Podcast, Instagram, Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Austin, what's your Instagram handle again?
Yep, it's Osmosis Jones 28.
Osmosis. That's a pretty interesting nickname.
Yeah,
there. How'd you come up with that?
So one of my friends, Chase Vaughn, actually played for the Denver Broncos for a while. A couple of years ago, we went to high school together.
Small
and
world.
Another big story. We weren't the best team, but he pushed himself all the way to the Denver Broncos. So anything's possible, and he kind of gave me that name, so I kind of took it and ran with it, and it's kind of cool. It's a funny little movie with Bill Murray and Chris Rock. So if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie and a good message in the movie, actually.
That's awesome. Shout out to Chase Vaughn, CSU Pueblo Stand Up. Got a lot of Southern Colorado listeners out there. Now, just to transition kind of back into the MMA side of things, Austin, what if you could say is some of the biggest lessons that MMA has taught you? Maybe not necessarily about the game professionally, but that are life applicable?
I think just two words just come to mind, and I think it's patience and focus. Also persistence, but I think patience and focus are the most important because I think honestly it's easy to be persistent. If you find something you like, you're going to want to do it all the time. That's totally easy, but to me it's very hard to be patient as far as accomplishing the goal. You forget about the journey, and when you achieve these things, they're just these short moments, but if you don't appreciate the long moments, it's not going to be as fun. Also focus, because it goes far beyond what you can do athletically, how good your cardio is, how smart you are as a fighter. A lot of it just comes down to you focusing on the end game as well. So it's kind of a mixture. You got to be patient and you got to focus, and focus is basically keeping the eye on the prize. So
okay, very understandable on that side of things, and a great way to just have a general outlook on it all. Who's your favorite fighter of all time?
What's a good one? I'll probably have to go with GSP.
GSP, okay.
We have similar styles. I wrestled in high school for 2 years. Not nearly as much experience as some of these top level guys, and I kind of relate to GSP because he didn't have a wrestling background at all, but find a way to master wrestling for MMA, and I think it kind of helps me because he does it in a more simplified way. He doesn't overthink the takedown. He just kind of times it, and I think that's the best way to beat someone in that game. So,
okay. What's one of the favorite fights that you've watched? On the show we do a weekly flashback Friday fights post. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to take a look back and see those, where we just kind of chronicle a big fight from some time in history. If there's one that stands out in your mind, what is it?
I'm gonna have to go with the Nate Diaz McGregor Part 2.
Okay.
In my opinion, that fight could have went either way. I see why they gave it to McGregor, but I also can see why they could have given it to Diaz. And I think, honestly, the biggest fight as far as when McGregor comes back, it has to be Diaz 3, because there's still that mystery. A lot of people still think they should go a third fight just to see what happens.
I agree.
So, but him fighting Khabib or Ferguson would be awesome too. But I think that Diaz fight, regardless, has to happen at some point.
Do you think that if he fights Khabib, that he has as good of a chance as if Tony Ferguson were to be his opponent?
I think Khabib, I have to favor the undefeated fighter, and stylistically, if that fight goes to the ground, I think that's Khabib all day. But McGregor's definitely got that one punch knockout power. But we've seen it time and time again where guys have had that one punch knockout power, but get taken down to the ground and softened up, and it becomes a totally different fight. Edson Barbosa, for example, when he fought Khabib, he's knocked guys out clean plenty of times in late rounds, but Khabib controlled that whole fight, and if you can do that, the stand-up is eliminated. So
Khabib ate that head kick in the later rounds like it was cereal for breakfast.
Yeah, the spinning wheel kick.
Fight week, should I say?
So he just shook his head and he's like, "Let's go, let's go." And I think a lot of that is when guys get hit hard, it's how you respond to it, the mindset. Even if it hurts, you don't show it, and that it's a chess match, and a lot of people watch MMA and they think it's just two guys, trying to beat each other up, but a lot of it is the decision making in that fight mentally. So.
And I think, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong from your vantage point, that didn't really compromise Khabib when he had that strike landed against him. I think really and truly in all of the fights and film that I've watched of his, the only compromised position he was put in was against Michael Johnson when Michael Johnson landed the big punch. But aside from that, this guy's not even getting put into compromised positions, much less having it, the scare of losing a fight.
Right, and even I've noticed even when he gets hit, he's not by any means the best striker in that division, but even when he gets hit, it kind of makes him want to go harder on you, and it's hard to deal with those type of guys. It's almost like if you watch Yoel Romero, he's very similar, much more composed in my opinion on the feet. He's definitely evolved. He used to be blow his gas a lot,
right,
but still win those fights. But his last fight against Luke Rockhold, he was super relaxed and had good head movement, good hand fighting, and was just waiting for that big shot. And
exactly.
That's another style to adopt as well.
it seems like once Yoel starts his sprint, what he reminds me of is a young Vitor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Vitor back in the day, you know, going up against, say, like a Vanderlei.
Yeah.
You know, when he just kind of shot like a cannon out. Hey, if you can withstand the sprint, you might be okay. But all it takes is one shot in that sequence, and then you end up, you know, Luke Rockhold is, on any given day, the best middleweight in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But not that night.
And not to mention, like, he's really good at getting guys to back up. And then, you have to honor his wrestling. It's second to none in the UFC. So you want to sit in the pocket, you're going to get taken down or,
that's where
get knocked out. So it's like you got to kind of move back a little bit, and he really just kind of moves his head and gets inside.
And he's 40.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is
and
what's
he's getting better,
scary.
and that's what's terrifying.
Absolutely
and I think the
terrifying.
fight between him and Whitaker it's going to be really, really interesting.
I do too, because I feel like the first go round it was a very close fight that could have been something that interchanged either direction on that. Yoel Romero just is, to me, he's a freak of nature genetically. He looks almost like Holyfield did back in the 90s, where his trap started above his ears and just kind of ran all the way down. It's Yoel Romero was a freak, and given that he is an Olympian wrestler, an Olympian medalist wrestler at that, I find it crazy that the biggest thing to his name in MMA at this point is his explosive knockout power.
Yep.
He's not really, he's not a guy who's been known for a whole lot of ground and pound or sub game. It's more so he's going to hit you with those flying knees, those big overhands, those uppercuts that basically grab the shovel, pick up the shovel full of sand and throw it to you like that uppercut with Luke Rockhold.
And a lot of it is like he's just lulling these guys to sleep with his explosiveness. He's not exploding right away when you would expect it. It's kind of he's hiding it very well, with him keeping his composure. And to me, that's like so hard to deal with.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine what it would be like to face a bull rush like that from a guy like that coming at you.
Just and then even at 170, you got Tyron Woodley. Like people give him a lot of crap, but would you sit in the pocket with him?
Hell no. Why would you?
Right, he's gonna that knockout power is right there,
and it's unfortunate.
And his explosive,
Woodley,
his wrestling. You got an explosive guy that can strike and can wrestle. It's like you have to be cautious, and those guys control fights all day.
Exactly, and that's too bad for Woodley that he's kind of gotten the rap as a boring fighter. Being a huge fan of the tactical side of the game, I love watching Woodley fight. Is it something that the common person looks at and sees and says, oh yes, I want to buy this on pay-per-view? Probably not.
Right.
It's no different than if you're talking in football, a defensive matchup, in baseball, a pitcher's duel. There's little sorts of tactical things within this side of the game that just maybe get overlooked.
And a lot of it is it's a very short-term memory sport as far as the spectators go. I shouldn't say spectators, fans. They're important. But they can be pretty harsh. But as soon as he starts knocking people out, it's a totally different story. Right. For example, like even in my career, I was on a big win streak. I was, selling out shows and I went on that losing streak, and it's kind of hard to get people to come to my fights now, but. The right people are coming along, and I've noticed that you just want the people that really care anyways to be there. So, exactly. And they're the main ones that are going to spread the word, as opposed to people you're just trying to rack up numbers. As soon as they see you lose, they're going to tell everyone else, he's not as good as he says he is, and they don't want to go see you lose again. So, I got friends that if I lost 10 fights in a row, they would still show up, and those are the type of people who want my fight anyways. It's quality over quantity, and I think that goes a long way because they're the ones that keep your mind right. So
that's awesome. That's good. So have you had to ever maybe, for lack of a better term, purge people out of your circle, or had to cut someone off because of maybe negative energy that you've experienced based off of some of the adversity in the octagon, or in the ring, I should say?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I get not licensed by the UFC. I don't know if I can say octagon.
Right. I get. After some losses, I got this question: are you still fighting? You think you should still be doing this? And blah 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 blah. And the ironic part about it is they don't really have anything going on themselves, and they kind of want you to feel what they feel. People want you to empathize with them, and I'm just not that type of guy. This is my journey. I don't care how many times I fail. I'm gonna keep trying. So.
That's good. That's it's a great mindset. Just sitting here conversing with you back and forth, it's pretty awesome to see the positivity that you exude just talking about the sport. If you were to say at any weight, what is the biggest dream matchup? Put you on headline right now. You choose anybody, any weight in history. Who is your dream matchup?
It'd have to be Chuck Liddell.
Me
versus Chuck Liddell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched him a lot, and honestly, I still watch his highlights, and he's still one of the funnest guys to watch fight, and just what he did for the sport too. There's a lot of greats, but I think Chuck Liddell is one guy that really, really put MMA on the map, and people don't really talk about him as much, but if you really go back and watch that era of fighting, Chuck Liddell is the man.
Absolutely. Chuck was a guy who was a pioneer in the sport when it was really still very much an underground type of thing that, who really was getting into movies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, when did the X-Men movie come out? Like early 2000s?
Right. Yeah.
Chuck Liddell was the guy who fought Logan or Wolverine, whatever it
yeah.
was seen in the
people
movie.
Don't even,
People don't even realize that he was kind of setting the table for what was to come within the sport years and years later.
Right, and
now he's a pop culture fixture.
Big time, and there's a lot of cons that people talk about in the sport. I see a lot of pros as far as the exposure that these fighters are getting. You got Max Holloway was in the movie Den of Thieves. So was Bisping. They're both in that movie together. Even Ronda Rousey, she got some movie time, and it's there's so many other avenues that this sport does for fighters. We're the new big athletes. People are really paying attention to MMA guys because there's just a lot of respect for us, and I really appreciate that as far as the fans go. And there's so many opportunities. So in fighters, you just got to stick with it because keep that charisma going, and you never know what it will guide you into. You see Dominic Cruz, Cormier doing some commentating, and there's just so many jobs that we can spread our knowledge with, whether it's physically or just talking about the sport.
Absolutely, and you bring up a great point. There's a lot of great people in the MMA world that I feel like just haven't necessarily gotten their chance to break out and show the world what they have to offer, and that the sport as a whole just hasn't really gained that big mainstream level to where it's completely accepted across the board. You still have some of the detractions from people that see it a little bit more of a gladiator type of situation. But I'll say this from my side of things, and I've had the opportunity to work with people from a lot of different circles throughout many different occupations, whether that be pro baseball players to some of the NBA guys, hockey, all of that. I've never had a bad interaction to this point with any MMA athlete that I've had to work with. So that's always a good thing that I feel like people don't know that they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are humans too.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just, these crazy meat-headed guys that only see one direction. Yes, are there your one-offs? Absolutely.
And
but
then
are
the
there
funny
not
thing,
for every sport?
Right. The funny thing is, those guys that are walking up and down the street telling everyone they're fighters, those are the easiest guys to beat. You can smell the lack of confidence on them because why are you sticking your chest out around a bunch of people that don't train, or they're just watching the sport, and it's kind of just disrespectful because you wouldn't do that when you come into the gym because there's always somebody there that can get the best of you. So you're constantly being humbled, especially at a gym like Factory X. There's so many different styles, and we got great wrestlers, great strikers, jiu-jitsu guys. We're just coming along as a gym. When I first started training here, there's probably 20 of us, and that was 2 years ago, and now there's about 50 guys on the mat.
That's awesome.
On the every night. So all weight classes. So it's just a great opportunity to really, sharpen up your iron. Iron sharpens iron. So
it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Who would you say, you mentioned that there is a lot more bodies on the regular that are coming through the doors here at Factory X, along with not necessarily members of your fight team, but traveling fighters that have came through or people that have came and gone throughout the progression of their careers. Who would you say is the most famous person that you've had the opportunity, or some of the most famous persons that the common listener out there might be able to know as came through these doors?
Yeah, so we got TJ Dillashaw has really been helping the smaller guys, the 35s to 145 guys. James Krause, hell of a fighter, has tons of fights.
Check out James Krause on The Ultimate Fighter right now, everybody.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also does some commentating for the UFC. Zach Cummings also was on the show of The Ultimate Fighter. Anthony Smith just moved up to 205, so be on the lookout for him. And Matt Brown, so obviously everyone knows the Immortal, and just did that fight with Diego Sanchez and just kind of just
that
destroyed
elbow
him.
was vicious. They talked about it on the Rogan show, but I love watching Matt Brown fight because every Matt Brown fight is a Matt Brown fight.
And that fight was that fight camp was the first time I met Matt Brown, and just you could see the look on his face. He was gonna finish that fight the whole camp.
The roar that he does when he walks into the octagon is like, that's something that as a fight fan, that sends chills up my spine. Seeing him just getting in there, that's that gladiator that brings his hard hat and lunch pail to work and gets ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And just like the first conversation I had with him, I just knew like this guy has seen it all. The wisdom that he has as a fighter, the things that he's kind of just talked about. He's a very deep person, very intelligent guy, and a great role model for the team. So I really appreciate him being there. And I never thought I'd be training with him, to be honest. It was kind of starstruck when I first met him, so it was cool.
That's awesome. I got to admit, I walked into the gym tonight, and the first thing I see was an Immortal just right across, as I'm walking in, and like, holy shit, that is the Immortal himself right there.
What I admire about him the most is you get to see the experience. He comes in, and when he starts on the mat, it's nonstop until it's time to be done. He does not stop. So it's hard to deal with in a fight, and it's inspiring. You can always be working harder just watching him train.
Definitely. I see that from just some of the posts from Bellator and from your fight team social media pages that Joe Warren has a fight coming up this week. Do you get to ever really work with him a lot, or is it just a little bit of a difference based on size?
Joe Warren is a great guy to train with. His knowledge as far as the Greco style form of the wrestling is, to me, perfect for MMA because it negates you ever shooting and eating a knee, and it's all about control and balance too is another crucial thing. And Joe Warren's just a great guy, and he's a super funny guy, very, 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 very good at being himself. And when he's around, everyone's just laughing. And but he puts in the work, and at his age, he's still dominating fights, and that's super impressive.
That's awesome. And I like to say, everybody out there, check out the Bellator card this Friday night. Check out Joe Warren. He's fighting for a title again, correct? Or is he on path for a title?
I'm not sure about that.
I can't remember what I saw from the post from that, but nonetheless, he has a big fight. Check out the Paramount Network on TV. It's going to be a free cable televised event. Make sure you check that out. Show some love to the Denver team. Just a question for you now that we've kind of talked stylistically. As you've evolved, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to stand up, or do you prefer to take it to the ground?
I think I prefer to take it to the ground. To be honest. I love the stand-up, obviously, but I just know the takedown is always there, and that really is what sets up my striking. I can get the guy to the ground, wear him out, and then take it to the feet. So, but each fight's different. I'll do something different every fight. Some fights I want to stand. Some fights I want to take him down. Some fights I want to put him against the cage. It really just depends. I think you really should be a different fighter every time you fight. That way you're not so predictable.
Makes total sense right there. Keep him mixing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling or jiu-jitsu?
Wrestling for sure. Yeah,
Sure.
I love jiu-jitsu. I actually just got hired on to teach the beginner and intermediate class here. So you want to come learn some jiu-jitsu? I'm teaching the very basic, minimum of the knowledge that I'm going to spread from our professor, Mario Bizzi. So look him up as well. He's super good at jiu-jitsu. And
when are your classes?
So my classes will be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The Monday, Tuesday, Thursday will be at 7 p.m. and the Friday will be at 4:30 p.m. And there's gi and no gi every other day. So
okay. Make sure you come and check out Austin's class, and then also make sure that you swing by at some point and check out the pro shop right next door, Performance MMA. Pick up Factory X Fight Team gear or any of your training needs. Along with that, you're about 2.5 weeks out from fight time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling pretty good about where you're at with your cut, with conditioning, everything like that?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. As far as the cut, I only cut about 15 pounds.
Okay.
I used to cut 25. I kind of just tweaked my diet up a little bit, added a little more cardio, and just a lot of it's just eating better, taking out those carbs. You just naturally lose that weight and putting in work in the gym. So that's been pretty good. And as far as my cardio, it's going really well, and I think it's only going to get better. And just the fact that every Friday we're trying to simulate fight night. Our names are all on the board. We're doing sometimes 3 rounds to get ready for our fight against guys that are going to really push you. And it feels like a fight every single time. So get through that, the fight becomes easy.
Nice. Well, granted, when you've done it for long enough and you've had some fights underneath your belt at this point, everybody's had a complication at some point or trouble with a weight cut. What's a story like that for you?
Yeah, but this is kind of where I started to really pay attention to my walk-around weight. One fight had a terrible cut. This was as an amateur, and I actually lost the amateur fight. I really think it's because of that. I was just not eating properly. I was drinking Gatorade, making bad decisions. Thought I would just make the weight easy, and I ended up to like 12 a.m. at night trying to cut the weight because it was just that bad. I just wasn't sweating. Didn't sleep well. Ended up cutting the whole day, and it was just a terrible shit show, and it was not fun. And my face was just sunken in at weigh-ins, and it just really took my mind off the fight. Even though you're cutting weight, you still have to be focusing on your fight. And that's part of the fight is the weight cut. I really think you can really increase your odds of winning that fight. If your opponent's dying and you're getting through the weight cut with a good mind, I think that really just gives you a competitive edge.
Have you ever not made weight?
Nope.
Great answer.
Always made weight, yep.
This naturally outside looking in and a fan perspective, but your teammate Jordan Tony, who was on the show a few weeks back, he echoed the same sentiment. As a pro fighter, you really have 2 basic roots of your job: to make weight and to show up and fight.
Yep. Even if the weight cut is terrible, I mean, even do what you got to do. If you have to run. Just make that weight, because it's fair to your opponent and it's fair to yourself. Prove to yourself that you deserve to fight. It's what's on the contract is on the contract. You got to make that weight. So, and plus you can lose money that way. So, especially as a pro, it's easy to make weight because you're not trying to lose that 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's worse too. It could be
this promotion. Is it like a percentage based off of each pound that you're over?
Yes, yeah. So each pound is about 20%.
Yeah, that's huge out there.
Yeah, you can lose. I mean,
it was almost your full
right,
purse.
exactly.
Pretty much, yeah. So you just gave up the last 6 to 8 weeks of.
And I think it'll screw you up mentally. You miss weight. It's almost like you feel like you've cheated the other person. So that's
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like part of sometimes as a whole, maybe people of today lose the sight of it being martial arts as a whole? The whole thought of the honor of the game when you have guys like your Connors or your Colby Covingtons who like to talk a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like some of the honor portion has kind of faded from the game to a certain extent, or it's still there? There's just some people who maybe have a new contemporary approach that doesn't echo that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly think it's all relative. I think it's a society thing. We favor the negativity, the trash talk over, respect. And I think that's just, it goes along with a lot of things. There's so many genres that I can name that you're seeing that more than just like talking about things that are gonna really teach people or like give out a message or something. But I think, it's a phase. I think eventually people are gonna favor the humble fighters more. Even Daniel Cormier, for example, people have learned to love him. They used to favor Jones, but Cormier's done his job, and that, to me, that's, you got to respect that. And the fact that his only 2 losses were against someone who,
Right.
failed a test, not to judge that other person, but, he failed the test, but he did come back and get his title. You have to respect that. And I think John Jones respects that too.
And, with DC, I used to fucking hate DC. I could not stand DC. He was like, but he's almost, to me, he's like, if you think of the analogy from pro wrestling, he's a guy who's been heel for so long that he's finally turned face.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think now, as this time has gone along, DC's grown on me. It's, you know what? it's too bad that you can't take the little Men in Black deal
Right.
and just erase those couple of John Jones fights out of it, because the dude was undefeated as a heavyweight, was a Strikeforce champion,
Dominated all his fights and
dominated. When he fought Nogueira, or when he fought some of those
picked up
on short notice,
Barnett and
next to
slammed
nothing,
him.
next to nothing, ragdolls guys.
Yep.
Olympian level wrestling. Doesn't want to stay in the heavyweight division because of his AK teammate Kane. Drops down to light heavy. Dominates everybody not named John Jones. It's too bad that DC will always kind of have that asterisk to his name, that he can never shake the John Jones loss. And even at that, maybe he would be able to kind of put himself above it if it wasn't in such a decided fashion. If he did get put into last week with that kick, basically taking that shin like a baseball bat across the face.
It was nasty.
It was
nasty.
With that, I kind of lost my place here. What's the hardest food for you to give up?
Well, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to go with pizza. Pizza's tough.
Pizza?
Yep. I love some pizza.
It's a tough one to give up for
Yep.
sure, especially when you've been used to having that pizza in the diet.
It's like one of the worst things you can eat. It's
Especially when you're trying to cut weight. In
I like,
this scenario.
and I like French fries too. French fries are a weakness as well.
Very nice. We mentioned your top matchups of all time and all of that. If you were to say, just even within your fight team on a regular, everyday basis, who is your go-to guy that you feel like you get the most out of with on the team?
That's a tough one. There's so many good guys that I train with. I'm gonna have to go with Josh Cavan.
Okay.
Just his pace. Dude never gets tired. Really is good at getting in your face, and that's such a hard thing to train for. So if you can withstand a guy like that, you shouldn't be too worried about getting hit. He likes to get inside and really just put some hands on you and put some pressure on you against the cage, on the ground, to put heavy pressure on you. So just a guy at the motor, and hopefully the UFC really notices him and gets him in there, because he's got a good record. He's finished the last 3 of his fights, so I think it's his time to get in there and show the world who he is, because I've seen him be down in a fight and come back and win it. So he definitely goes for 15 minutes straight, 25 or an hour if he has to. So
that's good. That's good. To kind of ask this and steer this in a different direction, there's a little bit of controversy over this last weekend, and you being a competitor within the sport, I would like to know your opinion on the subject. Down in Texas, there was a transgender athlete that has, born male, identifying as female, wrestled in the women's division high school for the last 2 years, and has dominated and won state championships. There's been a couple of instances in that in MMA where there's been a trans person that has tried to compete in the opposite division. How do you interpret that as a competitor? I know it's a very, very polarizing thing.
It's hard. Subject. I mean, it's hard because as far as like a transgender, you don't know what gender they're favoring more than the other. That's just really tough. From the scientific standpoint, I don't really know how that goes. If you're more masculine, you got more muscle mass, but you're still a woman, or vice versa. It's hard to say. I guess like when I was wrestling, there wasn't a men's and a women's. Like there's female wrestlers and they would just wrestle against the guys.
Right.
And I've seen,
almost,
there's a girl that took third, and she was, so I don't know. That's hard. I mean, there's definitely not enough transgenders to create its own division. So I really wonder if you'd have to like go see a doctor, get a doctor's approval to.
Right.
It's hard. I really. That's a tough question.
It is, and I've been kind of asking people around throughout the day what their thoughts were, and that's where I figured, you being someone professionally in the field, just how that maybe struck you, or what your thoughts on that were. Very, very.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if they're in my division, then it's my division. Let's fight. Let's fight. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Just to kind of tie this up and wrap everything up, is there anything that you would like to add or share with the people out there listening?
Yeah, I would just like to say that anything that you're doing, just stay at it, stay focused, stay patient, and don't just do it for yourself. Have a bigger purpose than that. I think there was a moment in my career where I was just thinking about myself, thinking about getting to the UFC, becoming a champion, this and that, what I can buy when I get my big check and stuff like that. But I really think the champions don't focus on that. They focus on something bigger, something that'll give them more energy. Like your family, your spouse, any of that stuff. It could be your dog, something that is also living, that is there to push you, to inspire you, and you want to one day make them happy. It can never just be about yourself. It's also about the teammates that help you get there too. So it's a very selfless sport, as far if you want to be successful in it, in my opinion.
Awesome. Incredibly humble, incredibly intelligent, well-spoken, as positive as you can possibly be, Mr. Austin Osmosis Jones, everybody. Make sure that you pick up your tickets to watch him fight on March 16th at the Paramount MMA card in Denver. This is Jordan Kurtz from Comments from the Peanut Gallery. You can look us up at www.galleriesofpeanuts.com. Subscribe to us on all major streaming platforms, including iTunes, Google Play Music. You could also find us on all social media platforms, on Twitter @Peanut Podcast, Instagram, Comments from the Peanut Gallery, and Facebook @Peanut Sports. We're going to send you off with a little outbed from a single from Colorado's very own Beyond Bridges called On My Mind. You can pick up that single on iTunes. Their self-titled, or I should say single-titled EP is available for pre-order right now and will launch straight out to you directly on March 16th as well. Have a great night, everybody.
My baby gets home from playing in the sand. The beach is down the street, it's in the palm of our hands. And we go every day with the sun or the moonlight. It gets us vibing hard, but it makes us feel just right. Throw a couple back, dance by the fire. The waves are crashing down and I admire all the love in your eyes. It's burning bright like the stars tonight. Whoa, you've been on my mind. You've been on my mind. You've been on my mind, because you're all mine. Yeah, you're all mine. I said I strum my guitar and play her my song, and deep in my heart I know this love's strong like the tide. It's rising up to the piercing night. Whoa, I said the ocean breeze will carry us home, all the way back to Colorado. I will follow you to the mountains top.
He was born in the summer of his 27th year, going home to the place he'd never been before. He left his past behind him. You might say he was born again. You might say he found the key to every door. Colorado, Rocky Mountain, softer than a lullaby. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado.
You've been on my mind, 'cause you're